I mean, I got to go stand in line at the grocery store while people put down their National Enquirers and talk about me.
And me.
Oh, yeah, Angela, what was I thinking of? Gee, I know you must feel a lot worse than I do.
Oh, thanks. That's very sensitive of you, Tony.
Yeah, I know how I'd feel if it was all my fault.
All my fault?
Well, I mean, the whole debate was your harebrained idea, wasn't it?
Well, then you must feel really bad since you were the one who choked.
I choked?
You opened your big mouth and jumped in with both feet.
Oh, yeah? Well, you're the one who set this whole thing.
So what if I set it up?
Wait a minute. You are both on the same side. Of course, it is the losing side. But, I mean, if you don't stand up for each other, it's becoming very apparent that nobody else will. Huh?
You know, Angela, she's right. She's right. You know, Joanna's responsible for this. I mean, she's accusing us of doing things that we never did.
Or even thought about.
Hi, everybody.
That's a good clip.
I know. But the thing is, though, like, you can't see the look that they give each other right before that laugh. But it's a great one. It's Tony thinking, yeah, I have.
I'm sure everybody listening to this has seen the look.
For
they know the episode.
Welcome back to AOA, the Who's the Boss podcast.
What?
I'm Tori. It's not, I mean, you know, by season 4, I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
You know, you don't think so?
Maybe I need to do it one week.
Yeah,
Let's see
sure.
and we'll have the people vote. Do one of those Twitter votes.
It's not a competition.
Oh, okay.
There's 7 people that read our tweets. No one's going to vote.
I like those odds, 4 against 3.
We are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss.
And we're moving right along.
We are. And the only news I have this week is exciting to us, which is that Alyssa Milano started following the Who's the Boss podcast Instagram. I'm very excited about that.
We should have had that breaking news noise.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, that's big, actually. That's exciting.
So maybe,
that's kind of crazy.
Maybe someday she'll give a listen to the podcast.
That would be cool.
She said in one interview that she was rewatching the show, like probably to get ready for the reboot.
That would be good.
So today we're going to recover season 2, episode 20. The episode title is Tony for President, and it first aired on March 4th, 1986. Oh my gosh, the cats.
I mean, we've been sitting here for an hour preparing and nothing, and now the cast decide to do WWE wrestling in the middle of the living room.
As soon as they see that we're doing this.
Oh my gosh.
The TV Guide summary says, Tony's opponent for PTA President accuses him of living in sin with Angela. I did not pre-read that. I was not expecting Living in sin with Angela. It makes it seem way more fun than they actually have. So this episode is written by Howard Myers. His first episode that he wrote is not one of my favorites. It's Gotta Dance. But he has a total of 25 writing credits for either writing or being a story editor on Who's the Boss. So we're going to see him a lot.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, some of his notable episodes coming up is Angela Gets Fired, Part 1.
Part
1. Spoiler alert. And then, Hit the Road, Chad. That's a good one.
Oh,
okay, yeah. So we've got some good ones of his coming up. Okay, so when this episode opens, Mona and the kids are playing Scrabble.
Right.
And
for some reason, right out of the gate, I noticed the Scrabble board's like bent. I don't know where they got this.
I know.
It's been
I noticed
in a box
that too.
In some prop room for 20 years. It is all bent.
Like there's some water damage or something. I know.
I mean, maybe that's, it's natural.
Yeah, it was probably up in the attic with the cello and all the other crap. And so they brought it down. It's old.
I don't know if she ever got the gutters replaced. Maybe water leaked into the attic.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because
what did he say? Those gutters were a disgrace in that episode?
Yes, he did.
Gus, the hot guy. So Samantha's wearing the robe again. it's not zipped up, and I'm thinking that maybe Alyssa Milano can't zip it up anymore because she's been wearing this now for a year and a half, and she's growing. So Mona wins, or she thinks she's going to win Scrabble with Corch Flap.
Right, Corch Flap, which I have to admit I looked it up. You're laughing at me.
Of all the things you don't look up, you look up Corch Flap.
I know. Well, this is what
and
it is.
She's like, you think I made that up? And they're like, yes, we absolutely think you made that up. So she admits that she was lying. So as this little exchange is going on, Tony walks in, and he's upset. He left the PTA meeting early and walked home because Joanne Parker was annoying him.
Oh.
And she is the PTA president. He says she's the worst president. She doesn't care about the Parents Association. She's only the president because her husband has the best insurance rates.
Right. And might I add, quickly, quick side note, Tony has a cool jacket. I like that jacket he's wearing.
Oh, is it like a bomber jacket style?
Sort of. Maybe like a leather jacket. I don't know. I mean, you can see it here in a second. But it's pretty cool looking little leather type jacket. Maybe a bomber.
Oh, that is a nice jacket.
It's
I
nice.
could totally see someone wearing that today.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's a nice jacket.
Color. Yeah.
Yep.
So Angela and Wendy follow him into the house. And they're a little behind him. Mm-hmm. And Angela's like, where did you go? And he said, I got so mad I walked home.
I hope they left well after him.
Well, they were in a car.
Right, but he walked. So how would he beat them home?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he is Tony Micelli.
It seems like he left a good 15 minutes before the meeting was over.
All right. I'm sure the school's close by.
But he also probably walks real fast.
That's what he's Tony. He probably there's a shortcut.
There were a couple of little hops in there,
right,
jumping over
stuff,
scaling walls.
Yep.
So he says, I just couldn't listen to Joanne get nominated for president again. And Angela says, well, you may not have to.
Oh, right. That's why they were behind him.
Right. After he left, this happened, which is that Angela and Wendy nominated Tony to run for president. So he's like, how did that happen? And they say, we said we nominate Tony Micelli for president. So they ask him if he accepts the nomination, and he says he does. So,
I know. Right.
Yeah. All in favor say aye. Everybody does. And then he says he'd be honored.
I know, but then he does some bizarro
I don't know
accent.
what that impression is.
Like a old Southern woman accent.
Yeah. I don't know what that's a reference to.
Like, what is he doing? I think he was trying to just go for something, and
maybe that's a reference that we don't understand.
Maybe that's true. If anybody knows, maybe there's a reference there of somebody being nominated for something from some old show or some movie, something happened in history. Yeah. I don't know.
So it must be a few days later or so. It would have to be at least a week later.
Somebody went to Kinko's and printed out a bunch of signs.
No.
Like, these are nice.
Angela has signs. She has hats. She has bumper stickers. So Angela and her enormous glasses are going to be Tony's campaign manager.
Glasses are getting bigger.
They're very large in this scene, and they're like sliding down her nose, but she's adorable. So yeah, she's got posters, buttons, bumper stickers, hats. And
visors.
Tony says, you're a great campaign manager, but he doesn't think her slogan has oomph. The slogan is Micelli's our man.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I do this for a living. This slogan has plenty of oomph. And he's like, oh, I upset you, didn't I? And she's like, no, I'm a professional. I'm used to working with pig-headed clients who think they know it all.
It's funny.
So just then, Mona walks in. She's wearing a T-shirt that says Micelli or bust.
Oh, God. And the word bust is right across the bosoms.
Yes. And Tony's like, now that's some oomph.
Yeah, exactly. Of course Tony likes it.
Angela's offended, and she's like, I'm surprised you didn't stoop lower, Mother. And she turns around, and on her rear it says, no buts about it.
Yeah.
So Mona.
Yeah. She probably spent all night on that.
And Angela tells her mother, you're pandering to the lowest common denominator. And Mona's like, oh, thanks. I was hoping you would like it.
I know, it's funny.
So Angela tells Mona, just please do not wear this to the debate on Friday. And Tony's
hey, yo,
like...
Hey, yo, debate.
The what? And Angela says, it's just a little meet the candidates thing, real casual, a little one-on-one. And Tony's like, you better mean basketball. But she doesn't. So she says, don't worry, I'm going to get you completely ready. We're going to go over every possible question. And Tony's still nervous, but Mona encourages him by saying, just be yourself, speak out about the issues, and it wouldn't hurt if you took your shirt off. So the night of the debate, we're back in, this is the same PTA meeting room where they went to the meeting and then Tony ran into Chad McCann's dad and then
and the lady who was there for the pound cake.
He ripped the sponge cake out of Angela's mouth and pushed her out the door.
Oh yeah, you're right. Same classroom or whatever. Well, it's a set.
Yeah, same set. So they walk in and Angela's like, are you nervous? And Tony's like, no way, not after how much you've been coaching me. He's like, hit me with a question. She asks, what is your stance on school lunches? And his answer is that ketchup is not a vegetable. And then he makes a Nixon face, which we had to look up.
Well, Nixon and the peace signs. That was Nixon's thing.
Yeah, he puffs out his cheeks and makes peace signs. So I'm sorry, did you look up when Nixon was president?
I did.
Because I thought it was when I was a baby.
Well, no, you were nothing.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, Carter was when I was a baby. Is that right?
Carter was when you were a baby.
Okay.
He was the 37th president of the United States. He was in office from January 20th, 1969 until August 9th of 1974.
Oh, okay. So I was born a couple years later.
I was 2.
You were? Yeah, so you were a baby.
Or, no, he wasn't impeached. Well, it was leading to impeachment, but he resigned.
Oh, okay. So Tony greets Joanne. So we meet Joanne Parker. This is the first time we've seen her. She is played... Oh, yeah, you tell me, Kevin. Who is she played by?
Who is she played by? Hold on now. The Nixon thing threw me off. Now I got to find that tab.
Sorry.
It's Pamela Galloway? Or is that the other one?
No, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pamela Galloway plays what's her name?
Joanne Parker.
Joanne Parker.
Yeah.
And she didn't do a ton of things. A lot of one episode. One episode of Generations, one episode of Beverly Hills 90210. She was in Matlock, Webster, but Who's the Boss? She's in 3 episodes. Yep. She'll be on again later. She's in Tony for President. 2 on a Billboard, which I actually remember. We've watched that episode several times.
Yeah, I like that episode.
Why is she?
I think that's...
Oh, I don't want any spoiler. I'm trying to remember why she would be in that episode.
I think maybe she's when they're doing the phone bank or something. She's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Housekeepers Unite, which I also remember that episode too. And she does play Joanne Parker in all 3 of the episodes.
Yeah, but
I know some people come back and play somebody else.
Right. But it's funny because on IMDb it says Joanne Parker / Joanna Parker. So I feel like Tony Danza probably just called her Joanna in one of the episodes. He messed it up. And they were like, "Oh, we better just go with that." Oh,
that's a good point. Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and just because of my terrible eyes. Is Tony for President, she's Joanne. Tony on a Billboard, she's Joanna.
Right.
And Housekeepers Unite, she's Joanne
Back to
again.
Joanne, yeah.
Huh.
So I don't know.
Joanna.
All right, yeah. Her name's Joanna in this episode, everybody. Update it. And then we also see Wendy again. So Wendy, played by Dory Brenner. Yes, Wendy Whitner. The wife who doesn't love Herb. Herb we will never see.
Oh, poor Herb.
So Tony greets Joanne. She says, we're opponents, but we can still be friends. She asks him a personal question, which is, what are you paying for car insurance?
Of course. Well, got to look out for the family business, the husband.
Tony's like, I don't really know, but I could probably look it up. And she's like, well, whatever it is, I'm sure Walt can beat it.
Walt.
So apparently she's always gotten this position in the past because she just bribes people with good car insurance. So...
Whatever
Tony
works.
says to Angela, she seems like such a nice lady. It's too bad I'm going to have to mop the floor with her.
Right.
They're really cute, teasing each other as they head to their seats. Like, she's kind of egging him on, and they do the Nixon face again, and he's all pumped. He's ready to get into this debate. So Mona meets a man. She sits down. She sits next to a man as she asks him who he's voting for. he says, I'm not sure yet, that's why I'm here, and she just sticks a Micelli hat on.
Yeah, that's funny.
With the it has like little antenna on it for some reason.
Yeah, the little antennas, but it's just funny because Mona can sell it like to this guy.
Right.
Like, whoever, it's like, oh, this lady sat next to me.
Yeah.
She'll sell it. Micelli's our man with the bug antennas or whatever they are.
Yeah, it's a very odd choice for that, like, nomination promotional device. And Mona puts one on as well. So Wendy gets the night started. She introduces herself. She is the chairperson. She says, on my left is a lovely lady who needs no introduction, so why bother?
Right.
On my right is the finest this community has to offer, following in the footsteps of Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I know, what a combination. And Wendy Whitner is the worst moderator ever. It's supposed to be like not divided, or they're supposed to not divide.
Right, non-partial.
Non-partisan, thank you, non-partial.
Yeah.
And she's just like, needs no introduction, and then she compares Tony to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right, weighing in at 165 pounds, Tony Micelli. Mona's chanting, Tony!
I know, so loud.
Tony! Yeah, like she's at a basketball game. Right. And she realizes she's the only one, so she goes, Tony, and sits down.
Yeah, that's
really
funny.
Cute. So Wendy starts off the debate. She says there will be a question, and then the other candidate will have a chance to have a rebuttal. So Tony and Angela make little fists at each other in encouragement, which is also cute. And I feel like they kind of put in these cute little flirty things with them for a reason. So the first question is directed to Joanne. A lady stands up and says, what is your greatest strength as a parents association president? Joanne just goes right in for the kill. She says her greatest strength is her firm belief in the family unit. She has traditional moral values. She says how long she's been married to her husband, Walt.
14 years.
Okay, thank you. And she says, unlike my opponent who is living in sin with his boss.
Right, like right for the throat. Goes for the jugular.
So Angela looks a little surprised. Everybody looks a little surprised. Wendy says, well, that certainly gets the ball rolling.
I know. Wendy Whitner seems to have some one-liners that are pretty funny.
Yes, I love Wendy in every episode she's in.
She is. She's awesome.
Yeah. And so if you watch this whole scene, keep an eye on Mona's face because she has great facial expressions throughout this whole thing too. So they asked Tony, would you like to rebut? And he says, yes, I would. We are just boss and employee, and we are friends. He says, there's nothing else. And Joanne's pushing him. So she's like, you're two healthy adults. You live in the same house. There have been no stolen glances, no, meaningful caresses as you pass the butter or oil or whatever it is you people use.
What does that mean? Like you people? I don't
know.
I'm trying to figure out what that means. You people.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Racist.
People who live in sin.
Oh, yeah, that.
Oh, you think because he's Italian?
No, I don't know.
Well, he uses butter and oil. I mean, everybody does. Right. But I guess just because they live in sin, unless...
That's true, yeah, it's a living in sin thing. Right. Yeah, forget the racist thing, edit that out. I should have said that.
We do no editing on here,
right.
So you have to own it. Shit. Okay, so then he's like, never. And she says, you expect us to believe that during all this time, you two have never shared a bed. And Tony's like,
All right. And you know what? I'm sitting in that audience thinking, yeah, these two have gotten in on it.
Right. But Tony can't lie. That. So Tony just can't be like, no, we have not.
I know. And it's just so innocent. Like he's like, I can't lie. So I got to tell the truth. Even though it's an extremely innocent situation, it does not look good for him.
So Angela looks scared because she knows what's about to come out. Yeah.
She knows Tony.
And he's like, well, it was an accident. So this episode is kind of a partial clip show where during this whole scene, they flash back to previous episodes. So the first flashback is him explaining the story of how he ended up in bed with Angela. So he says, well, it was an accident. I thought I was getting into somebody else's bed.
Right, which makes it worse.
Right, no, not making it better. So he recounts what happened in the episode Eye on Angela, which is that they were watching a scary movie. Mona decided that she was going to spend the night, so they moved Jonathan into his bed. And then Samantha got up in the middle of the night, went into Tony's room to get into bed with him. Jonathan was already there. She went into Angela's room, got into bed with Angela, then took all of the covers from Angela. So Angela got up and went, and like, we know this. Like, we know this dance at night where a kid comes in and then you just go in their room because you just want to have space.
I've done that.
Yes. So Angela goes into Samantha's room because she's like, well, that bed's empty, so I'm going to go sleep in there. Then...
I know. Carry the one. Like, where are we?
Oh, yeah, wait. Then how does Tony... Okay, so then Tony's snoring.
Tony's snoring in his bed with Jonathan. Jonathan wakes him up, tells him he can't take the snoring, and Tony ends up...
He says...
Tony ends up going into what he thinks is Samantha's...
Right.
Well,
he says Samantha wanted you to sleep
bed,
with him, so he sleep with her.
Which is where Angela is.
Right. So then Tony gets up, goes into Samantha's room, and Angela's in there, not Samantha.
And he thinks it's Samantha, so...
Right. So, and
never
he
mind
says...
the blonde hair and the... Maybe it was dark.
She was all under the covers.
Right, and it was dark.
Yeah.
And he was tired.
But remember when Angela says, doesn't my lump look different than hers? And Tony's like, I'm not going to answer that.
Right.
So he says it wasn't until the next morning that he realized it wasn't Sam.
Right.
So they show the clip of
scene.
Tony and Angela waking up in bed. He's kind of caressing he thinks is Samantha's arm. And then Tony and Angela say good morning to each other and realize they're in bed together.
I know, she's like, good morning, Tony. He's like, good morning, Angela.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they realize.
So Joanne says, Mr. Micelli, we demand the truth. And he's like, that is the truth. We never took our clothes off. And Angela gets up and says, Tony, we are here to talk about the issues, not whether or not we have seen each other naked. Okay, so now they've gotten themselves into another pickle.
Right.
Because Tony's like, well, that was an accident too. So...
no one even asked about it.
I know. Angela did that to herself.
Right.
Well, yeah, because Angela brought it up.
There was no need to bring that up.
Right. So now they show a clip of the second episode of the series called Briefless Encounter, where Tony wants to go take a bubble bath. He doesn't realize that Angela's home. He goes into her bathroom to take the bubble bath, and she's stepping out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
Angela looks like she wants to hide. And
Tony's just digging that hole.
Right. Tony's like, so as you can see, it was an accident. And statistics say that most household accidents happen in the bathroom. So Angela's like, again, making faces. Mona's making faces. And then the best Mona face is coming up. So Joanne Parker says, so you're telling me that the two of you have never shared a true moment of passion. And Tony says,
here we go. Hang on.
So now Angela is dying inside. And Mona's face is fantastic. She's like covering her face.
All right.
So he's like, well, that was an accident too. So he tells the story, and they flash back to season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Episode something. It was the season closer of season 1, right? Yeah, it was the
right?
finale of season 1.
Yeah.
The episode's called First Kiss. And so he says, well, Angela was sad because everybody forgot her birthday. So we were making a cake for her in the kitchen. He's like, and then we got a little carried away and we kissed. And he's like, it shouldn't even, he says it could happen to anyone.
Okay.
Right. And then he's like, it shouldn't even count because we were half crocked.
Yeah, right. Which is great. I love that line, crocked. Which I actually looked up, and crocked is drunk.
So it really means drunk.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
which I didn't know if it was a Tony Micelli thing or if it was a well-known,
right,
half crocked.
So now Angela's sliding out of her chair, and the whole room is just like, okay, these two are definitely sleeping together, and we're not voting for them.
Yeah. Tony dug his own hole.
So
then, and we go back to the house.
Yes.
And Angela enters, and it's like a jacket with shoulder pads on top of a shoulder pad outfit.
Right. This is the same outfit from...
She looks like when the football players are on the sidelines and they have the pads on.
Right.
They put a jacket over them to keep them warm.
And it's the same jacket from Junior Executive, which is
Same
when we noticed that
combination.
the first time. Yes.
But the jacket has shoulder pads,
It does.
and the outfit has shoulder pads. Which
Double
is
pads.
Tremendous.
It's like she's a coat hanger. So they get home and she's like, we're ruined. Like, our names have been dragged through the mud. What are we going to do? And Tony says, well, first thing in the morning, I'm calling and canceling your car insurance.
No. Gonna stick it to Mr.
Walt.
Walt. Oh, yeah, Walt.
Walt Parker.
Joanna Parker.
Yeah.
Walt Parker's gonna, I'm assuming.
He's losing a customer. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Joanne Parker probably has her husband's last name.
Yeah, she's wholesome.
Yeah. So, not that there's anything wrong with that. I have my husband's last name.
Right, right. You just don't want to assume.
It's a personal choice. So, she's like, Angela says, this is the worst night of my life. And Mona, always there to lift up her daughter, says...
Sure.
Don't you remember your junior prom when you had that ugly zit on the end of your nose?
Right, I thought that was the worst night.
And your date took one look at you, and I thought he was going to throw up. And Angela's like, yes, mother, thank you. That was a bad night.
Right.
But mother, this is worse.
Right.
So,
That's so funny. She's got to bring it up like
I
maybe
know.
she forgot about it.
Right. So Tony and Angela are kind of talking about how their reputations are going to take a hit from this. And Tony's like, well, I'm going to be in line at the grocery store, and people are going to be putting down the National Enquirer to talk about me.
That's kind of funny.
And then Angela's like, well, what about me? And I think Angela's basically trying to say, like, this is going to be more detrimental to my reputation because I am the woman. But Tony's like, so she says, well, what about me? And he says, oh, yeah, you're right. Angela, I'm sorry. And she's like, thank you. That's very sensitive of you. And he's like, well, I mean, I know how I would feel if this was all my fault.
Right.
So it wasn't that he felt bad because it was going to take more of a hit on her reputation because she was a woman, but instead because it's all her fault. And I think at that point, like, it probably would have, more people were going to say bad things about her than they would about him in the situation.
Back then, for sure, yeah. Or any really... Yeah.
And also, she was the person who had the power, I guess.
Right.
Like, if they were having some sort of illicit affair. But men in the neighborhood have been doing this on this show quite a bit, as we've seen.
Yep.
So they start fighting with each other, and she's like, well, you're the one that choked.
Right.
How is this my fault? He's like, you set up this whole the whole debate to begin with, but that's not a very good case as to how it's her fault. So they start arguing, and then Mona comes in once again. She neutralizes the room.
Right.
And she says, you both are on the same side. It's the losing side, but it's the same side. And you need to stick together because no one else is going to stand up for you. So they agree. They both decide that Joanna's the one responsible for this because she's the one that's spreading the lies. And Tony says she's accusing us of stuff we've never done. And Angela says, or even thought about.
Right.
And then they look at each other like they both know that that's a lie.
Right. Yeah.
So the next day, they're in the kitchen. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. Tony's cooking. And then, like, Angela's, like, mid-thought, like, we got to get this campaign back on track. Like,
yeah, it's like, I think
they're
it's
not
over.
actually having a conversation. Like, she's just sort of, like, it's all she can think about. So, Tony says, come here, will you come here and stir this while I get something? So she sort of walks over to him, almost not paying attention. He hands her the bowl, and she just starts lazily stirring. And he's like, no, not like that. You got to do it like this. So he's very close to her, and he's helping her stir the bowl. And then she's like, we just need to dispel any notion that we are in any way intimate.
Yeah.
And then they realize how intimately they're standing as he's helping her stir the bowl. So it's funny to hear because, like, they are very intimate as people. There's nothing going on between them at all. But they do act like a family, and they do probably act in a way that would give people the impression that they are very comfortable with each other.
People from that meeting saw this.
Right. And I think this is also why they were playing up a lot of the teasing each other and egging each other on at the beginning, because they wanted to give that impression to the audience in that room that these are two people who are very comfortable with each other. So Tony's like, just give me the bowl back. So he takes the bowl, and she says, I'll go get the butter or oil or whatever else people use.
Right, which is funny. The butter.
Yeah. So, they're kind of like, this is dumb. We should not be dwelling on this so much. We should just focus on the rest of the campaign, because people in town know us, and they're not going to fall for this. They know what our relationship is truly. But Mona comes in to the kitchen and says, do you know the two of you have been spotted in the cemetery romping naked in the moonlight? So the rumors are now just flying all over town, apparently.
Yeah, it was the hottest talk of the town.
Yeah, they're putting down the National Enquirer and talking about them instead.
Yeah.
So Tony says, well, the last thing we need is more gossip. And Mona's like, well, what if it's about Joanne Parker? So she explains that Joanne's pool man has visited her 4 times in the last month. And Tony's like, so? And she says, she doesn't have a pool. So now Tony's excited. He's like, okay, well, Miss, I've been married for 14 years and I have traditional family values, is having an affair on her husband. And this may also be why Joanne was like, no stolen glances, no caresses, because she probably would have, if she had a really hot male housekeeper, there would have been all sorts of stolen glances and caresses.
Caresses.
She would have been all over Tony as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So they're excited. They're like, all right, we've got her. And Mona says she'll rue the day she raked your muck.
Right.
You looked that up.
I did look up muck raking, which is a thing. If you accuse someone of muck raking, you're criticizing them for finding and spreading unpleasant or embarrassing information about someone, especially a public figure.
Yeah.
So the word muck raking was properly used.
That has to be an old term.
So everyone can sleep at night. Yeah.
Because even with our recent election, I don't ever remember hearing muck raking.
Ruck making. Yeah. That's a new word. I'll look that one up.
So, Angela's like, well, I'm glad you guys are excited about this, but we can't use it. And they're like, why? And she says, because 2 wrongs won't make a right. Yeah. She says, we're going to win this election fair and square. And Mona says, well, that's the hard way.
Yeah, that's the hard way.
And Angela says, is the only way. So Mona's like, okay, but let me know if you want to hear about Joanne and Dawn the dry cleaner. And she leaves. So Tony's not so sure. He's like, are you sure that we can win this without using this information? And Angela says, absolutely. And he's like, you know what? I really hope so, because I want this. So it's cute how much Tony has gone from like being a little nervous to being nominated, not wanting to do a debate,
right,
but now he wants this. Yeah. And he says, this place has been great for Sam, and they're good people, and now he wants to give back to the community. He's like, sure, these people are a little uptight, but so were you before you met me.
Right. Like, what does that say?
And Angela's like, well, after a stick in the mud like me, the rest of the community should be a piece of cake. And Tony's like, yes, exactly. But that's not what Angela was hoping to hear.
And the funny thing is, like, a minute ago, Angela's in panic mode. What are we going to do to win this? Blah, blah, blah. Now, Mona comes in with a hard, fast solution. And then she's like, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to win this fair and square.
Right.
Well, you don't have a plan.
Right.
So what are we going to do?
Her plan is just fair and square.
Yeah, I guess so.
So they both decide, we can take whatever's thrown at us because we know the truth, and we're just going to put forth the issues, and we're going to fight for this, and we're going to win. Until the kids come in.
Yep.
So the kids come into the kitchen. It's clear that they have been in a fight. They're both trying to avoid looking at them. They're trying to get right out of the room. And when Sam turns around, she looks like first season Samantha again. Yep. She's all dirty. She's got a black eye. So they're like, what happened? And she says, some creeps at the park were bugging us. So at first, Tony and Angela aren't really putting two and two together as to what happened here. They just think that, like, they got into a fight. And Samantha and Jonathan are kind of looking at each other, and she says, well, they deserved it because they had been riding us all day. And they ask about what, and Sam's like, just whatever, your basic stuff. So Jonathan asks Angela, are you and Tony doing something wrong? Mm-hmm. And she says, absolutely not. But I just want to say here, even if they were sleeping together, they still aren't doing anything wrong.
Right.
They're two adults. They're not married. They can do whatever they want. And, obviously in this situation, these two people have feelings for each other. But
right,
even if
but they're not doing anything wrong.
Right. I mean, even if they were just friends with benefits or whatever, it's nobody's business, and they're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
But, it was a different time. I mean, it still would be, I think, the issue is the children being involved, because they don't want to give the wrong impression to the kids or make the kids feel insecure or feel embarrassed about anything. And then also the fact that this is now, so they were thinking, we can handle whatever. But now that this is affecting the kids, like, this is too much.
Now it's real.
And we need to put a stop to it. Yeah.
Yep.
So he says to Angela, well, you're the campaign manager. What do you think I should do? So they cut to the night of the election. Joanne says that she hopes there are no hard feelings. And Tony and Angela are very cold with her. Like, they're not even going to pretend that they're going to still be civil at this point because their kids have been beaten up because of this. And Mona compliments Joanne's shirt and then asks her about her dry cleaning.
Yeah. Mona goes in for the kill.
So Wendy wants to start the election, but Tony stands up and says that before you get started, I need to let you know that I am withdrawing my nomination. And they ask, do you want to tell us why? And he looks like he's going to say something, and then he says, no. And he sits back down. But Angela stands up, and she says, I'll tell you why. So she goes up and then gives this big, long speech about how Tony has been living with her for almost 2 years, but that they probably already know that. And she's like, but what you don't know is that he's a fighter. He never runs away from a fight, and he just resigned. So why do you think that is? And she says that he wanted his daughter to have a better life, but now she's being affected by this smear campaign, and there's no truth to it. And Wendy says, really? There's nothing going on?
No, that's great.
Right. And Wendy's not on the side of the gossipers. She just really wants something to be going on.
Angela's not taking advantage
She just wants something to be going on with. Yeah.
Right.
So Angela says, yes, there is more. There is friendship, there's caring, and there's respect. She says he's the finest man she knows, and that she trusts him with the most important thing in her life, which is her son. And Mona says she also lets him drive her Jag. She says he is the best thing that has ever happened to Jonathan. He's the best thing that will happen to this PTA, and he's the best thing that has happened to me. So they show Tony's face, and he hears what she says there. And, I mean, obviously he hears what she says there, but he really takes in what she says there. And so they push to renominate Tony for PTA president. Right,
because he just resigned.
Right, yeah. So Mona stands up and says, all to renominate Tony. They say yes. Mm-hmm. They start clapping. So this little...
And I like that the guy who was undecided is now... He stands up, starts clapping. Yeah, Tony Micelli.
Yeah, Micelli's our man.
So, yeah,
Micelli
Mona
or bust.
sold it.
Yeah.
Micelli or bust.
So yeah, Angela's speech was powerful there because it got everyone to change their mind about the gossip and decide to go. But you know what? Probably no one liked Joanne Parker anyway.
I know. Seriously.
So Tony comes up to her and he's like, you planned all of this, didn't you? Like, you had me resign so that everyone would think it was over. And then you stepped in with that speech. And she's like, well, what's a campaign manager without a strategy? And he tells her she has a lot of oomph.
Yeah, a lot of oomph.
And she's like, I'm just glad they bought it because before I had to start singing God Bless America. So they hug.
Oh, no, it's funny.
And yeah, they're like
The whole
off
room's
to the
like, what?
side and they start hugging and the whole room turns and looks at them. So Tony starts singing God Bless America. So I guess we don't see him win, but he wins because when they come home later that night, they're packing up all the campaign stuff, all the posters, all the hats, all the bumper stickers.
Gotta put it all away.
Yeah. And he's like, we really did it, didn't we? And she says, yep, we did. So Tony's like, hey, Angela, do you remember all that stuff that you said in front of the PTA meeting? And he's like, about how I was the best thing that happened to Jonathan and that I was the best thing that happened to you. Mm-hmm. And she's like, did I say that? And he's like, yeah, I think I heard that. And she's like, well, it was all part of the campaign. And so he's like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And then they put on the little silly hats and they make the Nixon face again. But for someone to really say, like, you are the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a bold statement.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess now
sure.
she's like trying to backpedal a bit by saying it was for the campaign.
Right. It's like, did I say that? Whatever.
Right. But I mean, and you see his face in the PTA meeting room, like when she says that he really takes that in. And obviously he did enough to bring it up later. So, I mean, that's probably the boldest. For him to even bring it up is pretty bold.
Yeah.
And for her to backpedal a bit, I mean, because we got to get through another 5 seasons.
Right, because that means he had been thinking about it.
Right. He was thinking this woman just said I'm the best thing that's ever happened to her, which
foreshadowing
is pretty strong. All right, and that's it.
Yeah,
that is the episode.
All right, so I gave this one what I think is a pretty high rating. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I gave it an 8.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Oh, the cat's touching your cord again. Pull it out of her hand there.
Oh, gosh, stop.
Oh, gosh. She's a menace right now. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, did you have more to say about that?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I mean, it was just, overall, it was good. I think, Angela stood up for Tony, and it was a good little, like, even though all that stuff was exposed with them, they stuck together, and it was just good episode all the way around. I enjoyed it.
I gave it a 7.5. I agree, the same thing. And the other thing I noticed about watching this episode is you realize how many, like, little intimate interludes there have been with them, and we're only 2 seasons in. So,
right. I know, and I always think that happens later on in every show that I ever watch.
Right, I know, right.
Like even that they were leading on to, I feel like that was like season 3 or 4.
Right.
But it really is from the beginning that they're romantic.
Yeah, I mean, the seeing her naked's in the 2nd episode. They didn't even touch on any of the stuff that happened in It Happened One Summer. So they touch on seeing her naked, accidentally getting into the wrong bed. But they had shared a bed again at that point in the summer camp episode.
Right.
And then the kiss.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it is funny how, I mean, you would think that the pace that they're going, these two people would probably be together by like season 3, season 4.
I know. What's wrong with these people?
Oh yeah, once we hit like 1987 and we get a little closer to that,
starts getting real.
Yeah, I have a theory that I did a little investigating on called the moonlighting curse, and I think that played a lot into this show. So I'll talk about it more when we get there.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you!
Okay, I have a feeling we have the same boss again.
You do?
Yeah, mine's Angela. And it's because she got him nominated, she ran his campaign, Then once they were in trouble, she kind of came up with a plan, and then she got him to win.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Wendy Whitner because her moderation skills. No, I agree with you 100%. I think it's Angela.
I didn't even think about Wendy.
I know.
Yeah.
And she was running it. Wendy had a good, she helped too.
I love Wendy, and I gotta look. Oh, I didn't look up to see. Is this the last time we're gonna see Wendy? Let me see how quickly I can click on it and
that's
find
sad
out.
if that's the case. They should have kept her going as a...
Yeah, it's interesting because by the end of this series, Angela has no friends. And even a lot of Tony's friends are gone. So
Right, and then what happened to Wendy Whitner? Come on.
let me see
So
here.
I think I got it.
You got it.
Let's see, which order does this go in? No, she's in two more.
Oh, good.
Wedding Bells
Oh, of course. Right. How could I forget that?
and Raging Housekeeper in 1987.
I don't think I remember that one.
So-
Oh, that's the one I think where Angela trains him to fight. We watched that one.
I had a feeling it was a boxing reference, like Raging Bull,
Yeah.
Raging Housekeeper.
But that's right. How could I forgotten Wedding Bells? Wendy's funny
Wendy
in that
Whitner.
one too. She has a couple of good one-liners there.
I like that she's also either Wendy Whitner
Right. Yes.
or Wendy Whitner.
I know.
Did we cover that already?
I think I did in one of her first episodes.
That's probably another Tony mistake.
I know.
blame Tony for all these.
Well, and here's the thing I thought about that. Oh, actually, I don't know if that would be true. So Whitner.
Whitner.
Yeah, like the first two episodes, she's was Whitner, and then she's
The last three is Whitner.
Okay, here's why I think that happened.
Okay.
I think in the episode where Wendy does not appear, but Tony is wearing the bowling shirt, they had spelled Whitner with an E. So then they were probably like, oh, we need to make her character name match the last name on this bowling shirt. Because
gosh.
then
So ridiculous.
Tony for president, her last name is Whitner.
Right.
So I bet if I went back and looked at that, I'm going to check it out. If I go back and look at that
investigation.
bowling shirt, I bet it's spelled with the E-N-E-R.
I bet you're right.
That's funny.
Absolutely right.
And then, okay, so the man that Mona puts the hat on in the audience, he doesn't have a name. He's just listed as man. His name is Vinny Argiro, I think. But so in Tony for President, he plays just man, but he will be in 2 more episodes playing a character named Vinny.
Oh,
So we'll have to keep an eye out for him.
Vinny, hey, Vinny.
And his name really is Vinny. So they didn't even
great.
go, must be one of Tony's friends, and they didn't even go far for it. Okay, so you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram, or on Twitter, we're at Who's the Boss Pod 1. And on Facebook, we have a page that is just the Who's the Boss Podcast page. Or you can go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast, and there you can leave us a message if you would like to. So we don't have a song for the end. Next episode we're going to cover is Not With My Client, You Don't. And this is I'm excited to cover this one. There's a lot to unpack here.
Oh.
There's, we're going to hear the word hooker on an 8 p.m. family show.
Wow.
We're going to hear it more than once.
Really?
Yes, and it really it deals with some pretty intense, not intense, but a pretty deep storyline for the time and for the fact that this was a family show.
Okay.
And I really enjoy it.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell all your friends and give you a big pat on the back. Bye. I added some extra.